Hello, and welcome to On Leading with Greatness. I'm Jim Salvucci. This week's installment, Trust Falls, Trust Fails, and the Trusty Truth about leadership. Trust yourself, and you won't be disappointed when vain people let you down. Bob Dylan, trust yourself. You've heard of trust falls, those group exercises where a person is told to pitch backwards so that their colleagues can catch them before they hit the floor. This ritual is supposed to demonstrate, establish, or strengthen trust among individuals in an organization. Personally, I've never participated in one of these displays or seen one live, so I have no direct knowledge of their efficacy. Does everyone really end up trusting each other? I don't know. Since I can imagine myself catching a complete stranger or even a sworn enemy, despite my darker impulses, I doubt catch-or-drop drills build trust much beyond the very short run. What kind of a person would let someone else free fall onto the floor? I do know real trust takes a lot more than a momentary exertion of fellowship or a pronounced preference for not seeing another human crack their head on the linoleum. In reality, the mechanics of trust can be complicated and dynamic, which is why the best leaders have a profound appreciation for trust and carefully cultivate and nurture it. Much like the noggins of your colleagues who recklessly fling themselves backward, hoping you will break their fall, trust is fragile. It can disappear in a flash, delivering a fatal blow to many a relationship or organization. Still, most people calculate only the benefits of trust, which makes sense. Well-established trust is a net positive. But even at its most, trust has its limitations, and those bear consideration. Let's start with the good stuff. In terms of leadership, trust is integral to the 4 C's, those key elements that form the basis of any successful leadership practice. In fact, the first 2 of the 4 C's, character and communication, help generate and foster trust. It's the second 2, though, compromise and collaboration, that exist only because of the presence of genuine trust. After all, you can't create healthy or sustainable compromise without trust. The same goes for developing a collaborative culture. The 4th C and the apotheosis of true leadership. The entire operation centers on mutual trust. Zero trust means zero compromise and zero collaboration. Poof! There goes any chance at sound leadership. Just as with political capital, using trust appropriately cultivates and increases it, while neglect does the opposite. If you've ever grown kitchen herbs, you know exactly what I mean. Take the basil plant. If you only water it without any other sort of attention, it'll get leggy, meaning its stems will grow long and its leaves will become sparse. Eventually it'll go to seed and lose its aromatic punch. To raise a robust plant, you must either pinch back the new growth or harvest the leaves by cutting the stems properly. In other words, your plant will only become bushy, lovely, and useful if you use it wisely. A more delicious option. The same thing with trust. If you don't use it, it just goes to seed, losing all its value. By harvesting trust in relationships, you encourage the growth of more trust. You spurn trust at its peril. But as powerful a tool as trust can be in an organization, like the basil plant that's confined to a garden plot or flower pot, it has its limitations. Trust can't flourish beyond the contours of its situation or context. In short, trust over here doesn't necessarily translate into trust over there. Just because someone trusts you to catch them in a free fall doesn't mean they'll trust you to have their back in a crisis or not stab them in it when no one's looking. Furthermore, trust being situation and context dependent, any changes to circumstances can weaken or even dissipate it. You can be in love and trust someone entirely, but if one of you falls out of love, mutual trust will ineluctably evaporate too. One moment you're giddily putting the spare apartment key on your fob, and the next you're snapping up your clothes from the hallway floor while the super changes the locks. How to gain trust. I mentioned character and communication as being the first core components to a healthy leadership practice, so let's focus on them. Character has to do with who you are, the sum of your values, experience, temperament, perceptions, image, and, this is crucial, behavior. Communication has to do with your ability to convey ideas and consists of having a valuable message, cultivating a receptive audience, and most importantly, expressing your message with clarity. Being of sound character helps establish trust. Communicating effectively builds on that foundation. In terms of character, let's say you needed to confide in a colleague. Who would you turn to first? The lout who blurts out everyone's business, or the thoughtful, taciturn person who never has an unkind word? The divergent behaviors of these two individuals allow us to quickly assess their characters. The former, the lout, has no one else's interests at heart. His only concern is in commanding the room, even if by selling out colleagues. The latter, the low-key one, shows restraint, demonstrating her integrity. She's someone you know will not share your secrets. She is trustworthy. As for communication, it's much the same. Since effective communication centers on a message, that message must have value. A person who lacks values, such as the office loudmouth, rarely has anything of value to say. Even if you mistakenly offer your trust to that person, you'll eventually discover your error when he betrays you. Trust withdrawn. At the same time, the trustworthy colleague would only earn more of your trust by not betraying you. Her consistently reliable behavior might manifest as advice, commiseration, or even toleration, but never perfidy. Therefore, you have good cause to simply trust her more. For leaders, the establishment and growth of trust is critical, and it creates a feedback loop. Leaders indicate that they are worthy of trust through their sound character and clear communication. That behavior serves as a model for team members who thereby show that they deserve the leader's trust. Any that won't or can't demonstrate trustworthiness imperil their future on the team. How to lose trust. This one's easy. Even if you've spent years cultivating, nurturing, and growing trust, you can destroy it in an instant in myriad ways. Flat-out betrayal or not following through is the most obvious, but neglect comes in as a close second. Neglecting trust means not nurturing it once it's established. One nurtures trust by acknowledging, honoring, and tending to it, of course. But just like the basil plant, trust also must be used properly. Otherwise, it won't flourish and grow. Similarly, trust can't be undervalued or taken for granted. If I trust you as my leader, you can't assume that my trust will always be there through thick and thin. It needs to be fostered and renewed. The third and fourth of the 4 C's, compromise and collaboration, come into play here. You can put trust to work by forging healthy compromises and engaging in productive collaboration. Also, like compromise, trust has a built-in transaction or bidirectional movement, since trust has to do with reliance and confidence, which are functionally best when mutual. Trust can never be one-sided. For me to truly trust you as a leader, you must regularly demonstrate that you truly trust me as a team member. If not, the vital give and take aspect of our relationship will crumble. In short, as I said before, trust, no matter how essential to strengthening relationships, is fragile. Even the appearance of betrayal, neglect, or undervaluing can obliterate trust, while just a hint of untrustworthiness can ruin a relationship. After all, many a solid-seeming marriage has collapsed due to the keeping of minuscule, even innocent secrets. When it comes to trust, appearances matter. So before you go ahead and heedlessly fling yourself backward into the ambivalent arms of some anxious colleague, metaphorically, of course, since it's a silly exercise, how do you know you can trust the person standing behind you? Just as importantly, can they trust you to do the same? If you're not sure of either answer, you may want to reconsider your next move. Or wear a trusty helmet. How do you build trust? How do you actively assure you won't lose it? Leaders understand how to cultivate and foster trust, and I can help. Unlock the great leader within. Download my free resource, the Transform to Greatness Toolkit, now at thegreatleadershiptoolkit.com. I look forward to hearing from you.